Hello everyone. I welcome you again to the lecture series of object-oriented programming using C++. We'll be going to study these topics today, that is instantiation of objects, default parameter value, C++ garbage collection, and reference variables. These are the list of topics to be covered same way. So let's start with instantiation of objects. When you create an object, you are creating an instance of a class. Therefore, instantiating a class. To instantiate is to create an instance of an object in an object-oriented programming language. An instantiated object is given a name and created in memory or on disk using the structure described within a class declaration. In C++ and other similar languages, to instantiate a class is to create an object, whereas in Java, to instantiate a class creates a specific class. The result in both languages are the same. So there is no difference in use, just in terminology. Instantiation is also known as an instance. Instantiation is the creation of an instance of an abstraction, object class, also known as template, or other computer process whereby objects are used. Each instance created by instantiation is unique depending on the variation of the elements within the object. Until an object becomes instantiated, none of the code within the relevant class declaration is used. Prior to modern object-oriented programming method, instantiate had a similar meaning in relation to the creation of data within an empty template. For example, the entry of a record in a database was considered to be instantiation. The default parameter value. A default argument is a value provided in a function declaration that is automatically assigned by the compiler if the caller of the function does not provide a value for the argument with a default value. Let's have a look at the example. In this, a function with default arguments, it can be called with 2, 3, or 4 arguments. We have taken a function sum whereby we have given two default values of z and w equals to 0. So now at the time of calling the program, when I write sum 10 and 15, so x will be equals to 10, y will be equals to 15, and z and w will take the values of 0 and 0 respectively. Similarly, when I call the sum function with three parameters 10, 15, and 25, so now the value of z will become 25 because this is the actual parameter which is passed. So the actual parameter will always override the given parameter or the formal parameter. And w will be equals to 0. Now if I pass the four values to this particular function sum 10, 15, 25, and 30, then both z and w will be 25 and 30 respectively. The value of 0 will be overwritten by 25 and 30. So as you can see the output as well, the output is the addition of these numbers. First addition of 10 and 15, then the addition of 10, 15, and 25, then the addition of 10, 15, 25, and 30. When function overloading is done along with default values, then we need to make sure it will not be ambiguous. Now the key points before using the default parameter value are: default arguments are different from constant arguments, as constant arguments can't be changed, whereas default arguments can be overwritten if required. Default arguments are overwritten when calling function provides values for them. During calling a function, Arguments from calling function to called function are copied from left to right. Once default value is used for an argument in function definition, all subsequent arguments to it must have default value. It can also be stated as default arguments are assigned from right to left. So these are the key points before using the default argument values or default parameter values. Now moving on to the C++ garbage collection. Garbage collection is a form of automatic memory management. The garbage collector or collector attempts to reclaim garbage or memory used by objects that will never be accessed or mutated again by the application. In computer science, garbage collection is a form of automatic memory management. Garbage collection was invented by American computer scientist John McCarthy around 1955 to simplify manual memory management. The garbage collector attempts to reclaim garbage that are no longer used by the program. Garbage collection relieves the programmer from performing manual memory management, where the programmer specifies what objects to deallocate and return to the memory system and when to do so. Other similar techniques include stack allocation, region inference, memory ownership, and combinations of multiple techniques. Garbage collection may take a significant proportion of total processing time in a program, and as a result can have significant influence on performance. Resources other than memory, such as network sockets, database handles, user interaction windows, file and device descriptors, are not typically handled by garbage collection. Methods used to manage such resources, particularly destructors, may suffice to manage memory as well, leaving no need for garbage collector. Some garbage collector systems allow such other resources to be associated with a region of memory when collected, causes the work of reclaiming these resources. The basic principles of garbage collection are to find data objects in a program that cannot be accessed in the future and to reclaim the resources used by those objects. Many programming languages require garbage collection either as a part of language specification or effectively for practical implementation. These are said to be garbage collected languages. Other languages were designed for use with manual memory management but have garbage collected implementations available. For example, C and C++. Some languages like ADA, Modula-3 and C++/CLI allow both garbage collection and manual memory management to coexist in the same application by using separate heaps for collected and manually managed objects, while integrating garbage collection in the language compiler and runtime system enables a much wider choice of methods, including some that do not require recompilation. So the garbage collector will almost always be closely integrated with the memory allocator. The advantages of garbage collections are: garbage collection frees the programmer from manually dealing with memory deallocation. As a result, certain categories of bugs are eliminated or substantially reduced. Number one, dangling pointer bugs, which occur when a piece of memory is freed while there are still pointers to it, and one of those pointers is dereferenced. By then, The memory may have been reassigned to another use with unpredictable results. Double free bugs, which occur when the program tries to free a region of memory that has already been freed and perhaps already been allocated again. Certain kinds of memory leaks, in which a program fails to free memory occupied by objects that have become unreachable, which can lead to memory exhaustion. Efficient implementations of persistent data structures. Some of the bugs addressed by garbage collection have security implications as well. Disadvantages of GC are: typically garbage collection has certain disadvantages, including consuming additional resources, performance impact, possible stalls in program execution, and incompatibility with manual resource management. Garbage collection consumes computing resources in deciding which memory to free, even though the programmer may have already known this information. The penalty for the convenience of not annotating object lifetime manually in the source code is overhead, which can lead to decreased or uneven performance. A peer-reviewed paper from 2005 came to the conclusion that GC needs 5 times the memory to compensate for this overhead and to perform as fast as explicit memory management. Interaction with memory hierarchy effects can make this overhead intolerable in circumstances that are hard to predict or to detect in routine testing. The moment when the garbage is actually collected can be unpredictable, resulting in stalls scattered throughout a session. Unpredictable stalls can be unacceptable in real-time environments, in transaction processing, or in interactive programs. In modern GC implementations, we try to minimize blocking stop the world stalls by doing as much work as possible on the background for making marking, for example, marking unreachable garbage instances while the application process continues to run. The need for explicit manual resource management for non-GC'd resources in an object-oriented language becomes transitive to composition. That is, in a non-deterministic GC system, if a resource or a resource-like object requires manual resource management, and this object is used as part of another object, then the composed object will also become a resource-like object that itself requires manual resource management. Generally speaking, higher level programming languages are more likely to have garbage collection as a standard feature. In some languages that do not have built-in garbage collection, it can be added through a library. Most functional programming languages such as Haskell have garbage collection built in. Lisp is especially notable as both the first functional programming language and the first language to introduce garbage collection. Reference variables. A reference variable is an alias, that is another name for an already existing variable. Once a reference is initialized with a variable, either the variable name or the reference name may be used to refer to the variable. Now, how to create references in C++? Think of a variable name as a label attached to the variable's location in memory. You can think of a reference as a second label attached to that memory location. Therefore, you can access the contents of the variable through either the original variable name or the reference. For example, suppose we have the following example. Int I equals to 17. We can declare reference variable for I as follows. Integer ampersand R equals to I. Read the ampersand in these declarations as reference. Thus, read the first declaration as R is an integer reference initialized to I, and read the second declaration as, if for example given, S is the double reference initialized to D. If in case there is another reference which is being initialized. Like here in this example. Here we have declared S as the double reference initialized to D. And R as the integer reference initialized to A. So we can here see we have declared first these simple variables, then we have declared the reference variables, then we have called out the values of I and the value of I reference as well, then the value of D and the value of D reference. So the output is as follows. The value of I and its reference is 5. The value of D and its reference is 11.7. So I hope this example is clear and all of you have understood how to make a reference variable. You have to use this reference sign for creating a reference variable. First you have to create a simple, you have to declare a simple variable. Then you have to use this reference symbol for creating a reference variable to that particular simple variable. I hope it is clear to everyone. Thank you for listening to this lecture. We'll be discussing some more important topics of object-oriented programming using C++ in my next lecture. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this lecture. Have a good day.